e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, e5, knight b5, d6, knight 1 c3, a6, knight a3, b5, knight d5, knight f6, bishop g5, bishop e7, bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, c3, bishop g5, knight c2, rook b8, a4, b takes a4, knight cb4, knight takes b4, c takes b4, castle kingside, rook takes a4, a5, h4, bishop h6, b5, king h8, bishop e2, bishop e6, b4, a takes b4, knight takes b4, bishop d7, queen d5, rook c8, knight c6, queen b6, rook a6, bishop takes c6, b takes c6, queen b4 check, king f1, f5, e takes f5, queen b1 check, bishop d1, rook takes f5, rook h3, e4, queen b3, rook b5, queen c2, rook b2, queen takes b1, rook takes b1, king e2, rook c1, rook ha3, g6, bishop b3, rook 1 takes c6, rook takes c6, rook takes c6, rook a8 check, king g7, g4, bishop f4, g5, h6, rook a7 check, king h8, rook a8 check, king g7, rook a7 check, king h8, h5, d5, bishop takes d5, rook c2 check, king f1, h takes g5, h takes g6, rook c7, rook a8 check, king g7, bishop takes e4, g4, king e2, Rook e7. King d3. g3. F takes g3. Bishop takes g3. Rook a6. Bishop f4. Rook a4. Bishop g5. Rook a6. Bishop f4. Rook c6. Bishop g5. Bishop f5. Rook e3, check. King d4. Rook e7. Bishop c2. Bishop e3, check. King d5. Bishop f4. Rook a6. Rook e5, check. King d4. Rook e7. Rook a5. Bishop e3, check. King d5. Bishop f4. Rook a4. Rook e5, check. King d4. Rook e7. Rook a8. Bishop e3, check. King d5. Bishop f4. Rook a1. Rook e5, check. King d4. Rook e7. Rook h1. Bishop g3. Rook h3. Bishop b8. King d5. Bishop f4. Rook h5. Bishop c7. Rook h7, check. King f6. Rook h1. King g7. Rook h7, check. King f6. Rook h8. King g7. Rook c8. Bishop f4. Rook a8. Bishop g3. Rook a3. Bishop f4. Rook f3. Bishop b8. Rook f7, check. Rook takes f7. G takes f7. King takes f7. Bishop g6, check. King g7.